Yeah. Oh, I forgot my intro. We are here. Good morning.
Did you get distracted on the countdown?
No, I was waiting till 3.
Wow. Is that a new?
Because the people are going to watch, they're going to like, oh, he's going to go all the way down to 3, 2, 1, and then it hits 3, and then it cuts in.
Oh.
I threw them a little curveball. You think I maybe disappeared or got lost, but I've been here the whole time. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, how are you, my friend?
Good.
Jack of all Ryans.
How was your week?
Week was good. We were while you were away, we were in Atlantic City, which was Atlantic City is just like a sad Las Vegas. if I could describe it in any way, it's Ocean City you can gamble in, and it's a sad Las Vegas. Now, and I'm pretty sure the hotel we stayed at, and I'm not. Meg had to go. So whenever the secretary of the VA travels, someone from her office usually has to go with him. He ends up giving a press conference or something. Someone from her office has to go with him and just kind of support him, whether he's doing like for interviews and stuff like that. Just kind of moderate, and so he was up in Atlantic City. So Meg drew the straw, and she wasn't totally on board with leaving Axel. She thought, okay, she could go for the day, like leave early in the morning, drive up, and he was going to speak for like 30 minutes. So she was actually only needed to work for like 3 hours, and it was on a Saturday. She's like, all right, cool, I'll go do it. He'll speak, he'll do his thing, and then I'll come home and I'll be home like mid-afternoon. And then I guess the conversation came where she just wasn't totally comfortable leaving Axel by himself without her for that long. Not because of me, but just because we've never even tried a bottle. Like he's only, Meg has been his source. And so we decided to just kind of make a little family trip out of it. So we went and stayed in a hotel, and then on the way up we went to the beach, stayed in the hotel overnight, just hung out with the kids, took them to the hotel pool, and then we went to the boardwalk and came home. And so so we just tried to make a little family trip out of it, which was like kind of fun, but also just kind of like, man, like Atlantic City is expensive and the boardwalk is expensive, and it's really just kind of like I said, I'm pretty sure the hotel like has not updated since it was originally built, at least not in the last 20 plus years for sure.
Yeah.
And you're not complaining, it's just fun. Like you can tell that it's like they built it, and it was this big thing, and they kind of stopped caring, and it's just like they're doing the bare minimum. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was a cool experience, but it was also just like like the boardwalk. We let the kids ride a couple rides. We let them ride 2 rides because it costs $4 a ticket, and every ride was like a bare minimum, like 4 tickets. So like to ride these dinky little planes, these little kids planes for like a minute cost $16 a kid.
Holy shit!
It was insane. It was insane. Like I couldn't get over how expensive these were the dinky kid ones too. Like Fee wanted, like, there were bumper cars. I don't even know what the bumper cars cost, but to get like a package, yeah, we got 32 tickets for, do the math. Yeah, $4 a ticket. Was that right? $4 a ticket. Anyway, it was it was silly expensive. Huh. So it's like for what you're paying, Atlantic City is kind of sad.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I don't want to make fun of New Jersey. You still there? Did I freeze? Did you freeze? Oh boy. We got dead air. Dead air. Perhaps Everett pulled the internet again. Let's text him. Oh, he's gone.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We both disappeared. And I'm like, he did it again. I walked inside. I was like, did Axel pull the plug again? And Meg's, she's in the kitchen. She's actually holding Everett while she's making breakfast. And Fiona's in there talking about something. And I look over, and there's Axel. Like, I go in the next room, and I see Axel standing right there next to the plug. And it's like, yeah. He sees that flashing light and goes right for it.
Maybe it's time to reorganize the layout.
It's hard because it's I don't know where else we could, because of where the wires come in. Like, we can't put it anywhere else. Like, and so we just have to figure out a way to kind of like block it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or we start tasing him every time he goes near it. Is that thing you can do?
Put a cupboard there or something.
My gosh. Or an electric fence. Anyway. Yeah, so
you seem to be hard set on this electrocution.
yeah, I think I started thinking about it last night because they have this like play couch. It's like these cushions that you can. It's cool because it's like it's a couch they can sit on, or they can like make these shapes and make like forts out of it, or make like tumbling things out of it. And Everett and Fee stacked it up, and we're jumping off like our wood stove onto the mats. And I'm just like seeing like I watched them do that once or twice, and I was like, this just feels like a bad idea, letting them jump off the wood stove. Because then it's like if they overshoot it, they're gonna like hit themselves, like they're gonna run into a bookshelf. And also, like I don't want them to think that they can just climb on a wood stove because
right. What if
wood
it's
stove's
hot?
stone, right? And so I keep asking him not to do it, and I look over and I'll see Everett start crawling toward it. I'll be like, Everett, and he'll like move away from it real quick. So like he knows he's not supposed to. But then when my back's turned, like he'll get on it. And I'm just like, Meg, what do I need to do without like I think I even said without tasing this kid. To, like not get him. She's like, it's just toddlers, man. You just gotta go over there. You gotta physically like get him down and let him know, and you're just gonna have to do it over and over and over. And then I'm like, well, it's not just toddlerhood because I have to do that with Fee too. And she's well beyond the toddler now. So anyway. But it's also just kids, I guess. That's just kids.
Yeah.
But it's also like Roger. Like, please stop dropping empty barbells, Roger. Anyway, the end of my story was Fiona lost her first tooth, which is so the highlight of the weekend was Fiona lost her first tooth. Of course, then like 2 days later, she lost another one. So,
do you guys do are you gonna do the tooth fairy?
Yeah. But I was like, she was letting us know that like one of her friends from camp got like $25 for her first tooth.
Well, it's $16 a shitty New Jersey, Atlantic City airplane ride. I mean, if that's the going rate. That's the going rate, I guess.
Oh my gosh! So
it's tough being a parent these days.
She got 6 for each because she's 6 years old.
That's a good connection right there. Well done.
Yeah. So I used to get like $2 and like half a stick of gum.
Who ate the other half? Your brother?
Well, it was always really interesting because it's like, oh, that's crazy. I have a half a stick of gum, and I noticed in the like sun visor in my dad's car where he always had packs of gum, he only ate half a stick at a time. It was crazy. Like away. He and the tooth fairy only ate half stick of gum. What are the chances?
must be a traveling salesman. I mean, the tooth fairy is kind of always on the road from house to house to house, and your dad was always on the road from house to house to house. So
it happened to be the same houses.
Yeah.
So how about you? I want to hear about this baseball trip.
It was really fun. It was I think the swan song for my dad. I don't know if you know the history. He started with my oldest sister's oldest son, Timmy. Maybe like 12 or 13 years ago. So he was 10, 11, 12, something like that. And my dad had a goal of seeing every MLB stadium with Tim. Tim was a big baseball fan, would like, keep score at the games and stuff. Early on he wanted to be in some sort of sports stats type of thing. And he played baseball, and I think he was okay. Josh is better. I mean, just objectively, Josh is a better baseball player than Tim was at his age of senior year in high school. I don't think Tim played varsity baseball, so it doesn't matter. This is totally derailed.
Tim, if you're watching,
right. He's currently a successful graduate from the Florida State University and has a actual job and is a grown up now. So it really doesn't matter, and he is a very enjoyable young man. Along the way, my dad took, I think, all of the other grandkids on some portion of all MLB stadiums across like the multiple years that they did it. I mean, they drove bit more or less cross country. I think basically if it was east of the Rockies, they drove. And if it was west of the Rockies, they flew and did that one as like one big trip where they like flew into California or something. And then like, so my mom went on a handful of them. Other grandkids went on a handful of them. And we're talking 10 grandkids on my side of the family between me and my 3 sisters. And so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he mentioned that he realized he never took my twins. Matt and Josh never had a chance to go to any of them. And so he's like, I feel remiss and I kind of want to do it with them working into their schedule. And so he hit the first 4 that they had done with Tim. And that was Cincinnati, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
Cool.
And so we drove from here, did Cincinnati first, then went up to Detroit, then did Cleveland, and then finished out with Pittsburgh, and then came home. So yeah, big success, ton of fun. My Uncle Pete, who is my dad's youngest brother, and my dad is from a family of 10 siblings. So Pete came along, which is hilarious. They're basically the same person, just like slightly different versions, separated by 20 years or so, 15, 16 years. It's hilarious watching them in action. The boys got such a kick out of like Pete would be saying something completely unrelated to what my dad was talking about or whatever, but it didn't matter. My dad, Pete, shut up. Okay, let me finish.
That's awesome.
It's almost like an 80-year-old man and a 65-year-old man acting as if they were like, 12 wouldn't work. So what, 18 and 3, right? Like my dad still treats him like little baby Pete.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I have a question. Okay, first, of those 4 parks, which one do you think had the best like fan experience from like the view from where your seats were to the field, from the not just the game itself, but like everything that went on during the game? Like which one was like that was like the stadium went up and beyond?
Yeah, we were ranking them as we went. So it's a great question because we were talking about that. So you nailed it earlier when we were talking. I don't know the like historical or how long each of these stadiums has been in their current iteration. Like if somebody's a big Cleveland fan, like I don't know where. I think Detroit was progressive. Maybe Cleveland was progressive. Right, yeah. Cleveland's progressive, I think.
Yeah, Cleveland's progressive.
So I don't know how long Cleveland has been Progressive Park. I don't know how long. Maybe it was a ballpark before Progressive Insurance bought it, right? Like I don't know where it is in its iteration. What I do know is that it definitely is what would be considered like a modern stadium, meaning it is obviously modeled after Camden Yards, with Camden Yards being sort of the now standard layout and structure and setup of these modern baseball stadiums, where
it was the same architect.
Yeah. So, and maybe she's done all of them, because the idea being that the ballpark is like somebody carved out a little spot in the city, put this thing and laid it out. So as almost no matter where you sit in the stadium, you have a view of sort of this beautiful baseball field experience and a cityscape in the background. Yeah. So they all kind of share that. I think they're all of the same species of stadiums in that way. Like they're not, because you could imagine like growing up, I would go to the Veterans Stadium in Philly, like
big bowl.
Yeah, like you don't see anything but the thing, and it's disgusting, and it's like you're in it. So from that standpoint, they're all kind of the same. Now, where they are in each of the cities is a little bit different, but they are kind of similar. Like Detroit, I didn't know if you knew this. Like Detroit is right across the river, the Detroit River from Canada.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm looking on the map, and right, like, I'm like, wait a second, we could cross it, and we're like driving in, and there's like a sign like, bridge to Canada, no re-entry in the United States. I was like, holy shit, we should have brought our passports. And then
they don't just like stamp your hand or give you a wristband,
right, going across. Yeah. Welcome to Canada, eh? And then I'm trying to remember. Cleveland is, or maybe it's Cincinnati. One of them is right there at Kentucky. I think it's Cleveland.
I don't know.
Or not? Yeah, I think it's Kentucky. They start to blur together. So anyway, easily Detroit and Pittsburgh were definitively the coolest sort of stadium experiences, with Detroit being kind of, I would say Detroit is the best stadium. Like, and again, they all kind of look the same and they all kind of have the same setup and stuff. But Detroit was like, I mean, and again, maybe it was because Detroit's game was a Sunday, and you walk in and you get, there were free jerseys, and there was like the whole thing was kind of happening. It might have been a Saturday. Detroit was Saturday. We did Cincinnati after Detroit. Or no, Cleveland was after Detroit. Cleveland was a Sunday game. So it was like they took this really cool fair, like a state fair, and plopped it into the stadium. Plus so one thing I noticed, Cincinnati was the worst. Cleveland was kind of like middle of the road. Detroit, you could walk all the way around and not lose sight of the field. Like it was a really cool thing. Getting in and out of the stadium was a little shaky, like the roads and stuff and the area itself. I mean, it's Detroit. I don't know much about Detroit, but as far as like a city goes, looks like it's struggling a little. But it looked, and as far, I mean, it's the middle of the day on a Saturday, so it didn't feel like unsafe. But I'm not sure a night game in Detroit would be the best choice for a bunch of suburban kids, rolling in from wherever the surrounding areas. But again, I might be wrong. I will say this: the general like seedy characters that you expect in sort of a city setting of a baseball game, they kind of felt like the Disney Plus versions of them.
Okay.
Right? So the guy rolling up to try and scalp tickets, which Detroit, more than any of the rest, scalpers walking around. I got 4 tickets. Who needs 4 tickets? I got 4 tickets, right? And you're like, oh, that guy's really kind of funny. The guy trying to sell us drugs was kind of cool. Like, I mean, real sweet kind of dude. But again, like middle of the day, but so, like it really felt sort of like
persuasive, but wasn't pushy. Like he was doing such a good job.
There was a dude selling us like bags of M&Ms from his pockets. Not really sure what that was all about, but I mean, you got like right into
you melt in your mouth, not in your pockets.
I mean, like got right into we had the back gate open trying to put my dad's scooter back in. And like he like just rolled right up into the back. I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? M&Ms. Want to buy some M&Ms? Peanut M&Ms.
Were they at least in a bag?
Like I think so. I mean,
maybe
not all of them. That's half off. Those are half off. He'll sell those to you a la carte. I got reds. I got greens.
Look, I can sell them to you for $1 cheap. I got these W's and W's.
Yeah, I got browns. But the Detroit Stadium itself was cool. And then we went to Pittsburgh, obviously was last. If you could, the Pittsburgh Stadium was cool as shit. Like the design of it and like the steel beams and stuff. And then where it sits in the city is by far the most. It was so cool. So cool looking. The backscape of, and you're like right there at the tip of where the Mahanga, yeah, the one river meets the other river and makes the Ohio River. It was really neat. And then the way the stadium is situated to be able to like get in and out, Pittsburgh was by far kind of the coolest. But it's like services. Yeah, and you can see that the whatever the gold, the black and yellow Pittsburgh, that bridge going across. So yeah, PNC Park. And I mean, so we were, if you kind of were to the left, we were along the third base line, kind of up. Yeah, like up there. And so, yep, that's more of like what our view was. Looking out towards looking out towards downtown across the river. And you can walk down along that river, which the boys did and fished because we would generally get there anywhere between 2 to 2.5 hours early, hang for a bit, and then get into the field hour and a half early. So
that's cool.
It was, and it was, my dad did a great job of like building in extra time here and there to, do like, when the boys got to go fishing at a couple parks, and Andrew and I found some places to go rock.
Oh, you froze on me. More technical difficulties. Oh, Jack. Did I lose you, Jack?
And I'm back. That was me this time. Nicole pulled out the Wi-Fi. I walked up there. She's climbing up on a counter. Yeah. Shocked her with the taser.
Okay, so it's okay if it's your wife. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. But it was pouring down rain. So we went to the Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, cool.
On the way down, because we were leaving from Cleveland. We stayed just outside Cleveland, and we were coming down towards Pittsburgh, and so we stopped in at Canton, Ohio. And I got some thoughts on the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but we'll save those for another time. Yeah.
Cool. Was it a cool experience? Was that a cool experience?
It was an experience. Let's say that. Yeah. I'm not the right audience. They got my money. I mean, they got my $160 for the four of us to go in. But it's interesting the level of deification that America has imposed upon these individuals who play a game and get paid an exorbitant amount of money to play it. And nobody has a problem with it. There's no irony in that. You have a hall of heroes where it is all the inductees have had a bust cast of them, and it's placed on this like wall on these like each year, and it's kind of set up in this like octagonal sort of shape. And so here's like these gigantic heads just looking down, backlit from behind, and it feels as if you're walking through some like late 70s, early 80s, Clash of Titans movie, and it's the Hall of Justice as we're walking through it, and they're just there's Jerry Rice looking down on you in right, like there's this hologram display where like Joe Namath comes. It's like you're in a locker room, and it's like the halftime speech, and Joe Namath is talking to you about like, this is a team you can never get cut from, you can never whatever, it is forever. I'm like, I don't think it's forever, man. Like I mean, it's forever for you maybe, but like I'm not sure in 300 years anyone's really going to give a shit that you played football. But I mean, we do now, I guess, and you got my $160, so there's that. And it's just what kind of was the cherry, I guess I'm talking about now. What was the cherry on top is this, you're like walking around. So Xbox has a display, or like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a the fact that Madden, Xbox, the game Madden, and Ubisoft, right, is the company that made that EA Sports and there is a not display, but like a exhibit. There is an exhibit solely, and it takes up a good chunk of real estate. Maybe not quite as much space as the Hall of Heroes, but it definitely takes up more space than their nod towards equality and resegregation of the league post World War II. Xbox, the game, like playing a video game. Well, I mean, it could be a money thing. It's I mean, of course, everything, right? That's an easy, it all comes back to money. It's just an interesting commentary on anyone who thinks that any of this is not just entertainment and
so true
spectacle to distract you from something that, like, I don't know. I don't have an answer, and I don't have there's no like moral or ethical judgment on it. It's just, it is a very, very layered and intricate system of distraction away from something. I don't know what, but and we're paying a lot of money to continue to voluntarily let this thing distract us from something. It's death. I think it's death, but I mean, that might be too heavy for 8:09 on a Wednesday morning.
It's why it's funny because I was just having this thought the other day because I forget what someone was talking about. Someone was mad, like someone in the, some player in the NBA was mad because so-and-so said something about this, or so-and-so said something about that. And they were just, and it became this story where it's just, can you believe this guy said this about this guy? And it became this story, and it may have been just this, it was something like this guy said this thing on Twitter and this other guy responded back. Ooh, how interesting is this, right? The fact that someone having a conversation on Twitter was newsworthy. And it makes me laugh because,
especially, it's not called Twitter anymore. So I mean, I don't even know what platform you're talking about.
and as much as these pro sports, like pro wrestling flat out says we are sports entertainment. We are an athletic we are this athletic thing, but our goal is entertainment. We are an entertainment company. And all sports, if they think that they're anything different other than the outcome may or may not be fixed, it's the same thing. Like, the only reason people watch is because they want to be entertained. And so that's exactly why, like, this Twitter beef is entertainment. People eat it up. It's the same thing. Yeah. And entertainment is money, and companies want money, and the world wants money, and so people are willing to pay for it. So
I guess the question would be, does in WWE, do the rules change in the middle of some, like there is an expectation that is set prior to the initiation of the match, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody knows the rules, and whether the audience knows the rules or not, that's not important. But the participants and the arbitrators of the rules, like, and I even mean like they sat down and, player or wrestler A knows that wrestler B is going to win the match before they start. But that's not part of the things of why they're enacting the gameplay. Part of it is like, okay, yeah, B is going to win, but A, you have to hit these certain wickets in order for B to win. So really what the rules are, like, you have hit, and B, you have to hit these wickets, or else 6 months from now, maybe you won the title, last time, you could have held it for a lot longer, but you kind of suck at being the champ. And so we're going to write you out of that. And so there are established written rules, and there's probably established unwritten rules. So in that sense, this is the part, we've had this discussion before, the rules of football seem to be, for most people, more codified and transparent, and everybody knows. And yet there isn't. There's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of like, well, certain people can get away with certain rules and certain people can get away breaking other rules, right? Like, I mean, and we don't have to go into any sort of specifics or details because I don't want to make everybody mad, but why not? That's always more fun than making some people mad. So I was thinking of the clock, the pitching clock for baseball.
Yeah.
As far as the fan experience goes, I can't remember the last time I went to a baseball game. Well, that's not true. I mean, I've been to other professional baseball games, but I can't remember like thinking like, oh my God, this is going so slow. I have sat through a couple of Josh's baseball games and thought, oh my God, it's going so slow. The pitching clock was noticeable, but not like oppressively overwhelming. Granted, I'm not playing the game. I don't know. And they're, pretty deep into the season now. But the general consensus you'd hear people talk about, we talked to a couple of the ushers, everybody's a fan of the clock. Keeps the game moving. Games were 2.5, maybe 3 hours long. And we left after the 7th inning most times. We stayed to the 8th for one of them, just for mobility issues with my dad and Pete. But so that's like a major rule change. How long into the sport of baseball existing? And everybody, right? Like everyone's, oh my God, it's going to ruin the game. Oh my God, it's going to be great for the game. Whatever. In the end, does it really make a difference in the play of the game? Or did it make a difference for the experience of the fans and the audience and the watching of the game? So I'm basically changing rules in order to make my commercialized experience of watching this thing, which is over 150, about 150 years old. Wait a second. This seems very close to towing the line of pulling down the curtain of what exactly this thing is.
Yeah.
That it actually has, and I'm being very cynical and like dismissive of the romanticism of sport, especially since we just watched Moneyball, where right, like you look at how aggressively everyone attacked Billy Beane and as played by Brad Pitt, which I mean, how psyched was Billy Beane when he found out that Brad Pitt was going to be playing him? And
it's probably like, okay, I'm okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's good. Pretty spot on, I think.
Yeah, right. That's a great movie. But right, like so, yeah. He flew too close to the sun in the sense that he called out what this thing was.
Yeah.
That it has nothing to do with what you think your value is and what traditionally people have paid you based on what they think your value is. Your value is, can you get on base? Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where like he's in the meeting and he's like just keeps pointing at Jonah Hill's character and like, if I'm pointing at you, you talk, right? And he's just like, what do I want from you? Get on base. What I want for you, get on base, right? Like that's what your value is. And statistically, a sport that tracks everything with a relatively high assuredness, I can guarantee whether somebody is going to be more valuable than somebody else based on their on base percentages, whether it's a hit. And it like even says like, yeah, but he walks all the time. I don't care. He gets on base, right? Like that's it. And so there's this cool, and of course, then the movie can't get away from itself and adds in a little bit of the romanticness of it, the romanticism of it, and blah, blah, blah. And that is true. That is part of the culture and the narrative, because it isn't just numbers and it isn't just because that's half the thing. I would say 3/4 of what made this trip fun. The games were fun, but the last two, Andrew and Matt practiced like pitch by pitch, play by play betting with dollar bills. They could like add in, so like they'd bet like ball or strike. One would be like, I'm covering it, right? And they 2-to-1 odds, it's gonna be a foul ball. 4-to-1 odds, it's a base hit. Those types, and they'd be like, I cover it, and so they were practicing so that for the last game they played my dad. It was Josh, Matt, Andrew, and my dad playing. Hilarious watching it go down. And so that was more fun than watching the game, but you can't have that unless the game is being played. Right. So it isn't as simple as it's all just commercialization. It's all just like yes, but also no. And also what a great excuse for the six of us to be in a car traveling, across the Midwest, for 5 days, 6 days, telling stories and having fun. Like that's where the romantic sort of mystique and the tradition of it and sort of that's as fun or more fun than the games themselves. And the game just becomes an excuse to go and, learning about, like, there's these two women sat next to my dad for one of the games who are, they have season tickets and they make like 60 of the 80 games each season. And, and they've been coming for 30 years and blah, blah, blah. And they've, weathered through multiple seasons, there are multiple stadiums and, ups and downs of the team. This was at Cleveland. So all of that is like, and right, the Cleveland name changed to the Guardians 2 years ago. So there's like still a lot of remnant. I'm sure you pushing a button there for you with the Commanders and stuff. And so there's like, there's all of that stuff that those are all interesting storylines that are of value. And these entities, these entertainment entities called professional sports teams, do a phenomenal job of telling the story that best serves their needs to get asses in seats and pay the bills, while at the same time being sure to pay respect, or at least have a nod towards the tradition of the game. And I think that's the stadiums do a good job of creating a spectacle that if I were a parent with young kids, spending $120 to come to a Saturday day game in Detroit or Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, I would not feel like I wasted my money. It would be an extremely enjoyable experience. Now, coming like every Saturday, coming 3 times a week, I would quickly be like, I'm done.
I did there was one year I got a ticket package to the Orioles where it was like 16 or whatever it was. Basically, I had a ticket to every Sunday home game. And so it could be a week, 2 weeks. You could go 2 weeks in a row. You can end up not going to game for 3 weeks. But it was every Sunday home game I had a ticket. And by about, I forget how many it was. I don't remember how many it was, but it was by about halfway through, maybe 6 games in, I was like, I'm done. Like the trek out to Baltimore, the parking, the city, and then by the middle of the summer, like it's hot and you're exhausted, and it's I enjoy going to baseball games, but with that sort of like repetitiveness, it definitely gets old fast.
Yeah.
But there's some people that, like you said, those ladies, they live for it. Like that's their lives are run, probably those games, their lives revolve around.
Yeah. Well, it's impressive as a sports entertainment entity that those teams and then the whoever runs the stadiums can appeal to such a diversity of audiences and provide a continuity of experience, but also have enough variability and room that you could have the season ticket holder have as enjoyable of an experience across 60 games as the person who shows up for one game, or the family that comes twice a season, or the family that every year we go to the blah, blah, blah game, like that there is a homogeny of experience, meaning like a consistency of a product delivered each and every time. But at the same time, there is enough diversity across each of the games that somebody who's coming to so many of them still feels as if it's worth. And then there's just the continuity and the consistency of the game being played, right? So there's this, it's a very impressive spectacle. Yeah. And I mean that in a complimentary way in this sense of spectacle. Spectacle is often a very derogatory term because the sense that spectacle allows you to remain distracted from something, right? So if I am overwhelmed by the spectacle, then I'm less inclined to actually dig down and look at the thing that the spectacle is distracting me from.
Yeah.
That would be its derogatory use, or sort of its the less positive commentary on the use of spectacle. In this case, I would say the spectacle is actually quite impressive because it is not on accident that the way that the food is laid out. It is not on accident the timing and the consistency of the timing and the ritual, like what happens, at 15 minutes out, the people that are introduced. At 10 minutes out, you get the personal, the veterans are thanked for their service. At 5 minutes out, you have the national anthem. At 2 minutes out, you have the little kid in the stands, play ball. At 1 minute out, it's the first pitch, and then I messed up the order, but
you're right. Like
I didn't write this down. They all do it exactly the same, and yet all a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so there is a comfort in the ritual of the pre-game and then the game execution things. And each of them do a little bit different seventh inning stretch, but there's always a seventh inning stretch. Each of them does a little bit different, like the hot dog race around the thing. Is it the mascots? Is it electronically on the scoreboard, right? Like all the t-shirts the t-shirts shot from the field giveaway. There's an impressive level of attention to these are the things expected. They provide a comfort and continuity and consistency of a product delivered. But at the same time, there's room for each of them to kind of be handled how each region culturally needs it to be. And so all of that to say, if we transition, right, because you wanted to talk about the games. Does the games understand itself as a similar spectacle, a similar entity, or does it still think that it is something that it isn't?
Do I think so? Wait, say that again.
Does the games understand itself? Right, this whole discussion of I think Major League Baseball knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't try to hide it, but yet it covers itself in so many layers of spectacle that none of us want to dig too deeply into like what exactly it's doing, because it's like, well, yeah, of course we even said it, as I was saying, like, well, yeah, it's just a big money-making entertainment thing. But yet there's enough layers of narrative and enough layers of tradition and history and continuity that it feels as if, well, no, it's doing something. There's enough layers of romanticism that feels as if it's doing something noble and heroic, and right. It is American culture, blah, blah, blah. Like, but don't pull the curtain back too far, because what you're going to uncover is American culture is opulence, obesity, overt capitalism, and the inability to examine our mortality and our finiteness, right? Like, whoa, what? Like that, if you could walk around a major league stadium and just find examples of that. What it lacks in quality, it will overwhelm you in quantity, so that you are so overwhelmed that you just will not examine it and be like, that was awesome. Because instead of having one really good meal, I'm going to have 19 really bad chili dogs and be like, that was awesome. Right? Like that's
like this, it's like this food that I probably would not eat anywhere else, or be willing to pay this much for anywhere
Right.
else, but I'm willing to do it here because
Right.
it's part of it.
And
Like, Yeah.
I would make the claim that that entity as a one-off, but going to the Football Hall of Fame just confirmed that for me, like undoubtedly, right?
Yeah.
What it lacks in quality, it just overwhelms you in quantity. So that you walk out and you ask me like, oh, was it cool? Was it worth like no, actually I was disturbed and left unsettled the entire time after it. And I haven't yet processed the whole thing of what I've seen, but to the point where I'm not sure I'm gonna watch football for a while. Like I don't know, right? Like what? How are you? But like I'm kind of like, I'm not sure I can be a part of supporting this. And maybe I'll just get over myself and I'll forget about it by next week. But like anyway, so that they know exactly what they are and they unapologetically have crafted and created an industry and a system that delivers on what they are.
Yeah.
I'm asking, do you think the games knows what it is or is still trying to do something or say that it is something that it isn't?
I definitely think it's still trying to figure it out. Like it's now in fairness, like, baseball and football have had decades, if not a century, to try to like figure this out.
Yeah.
But I feel like the games is, I think they want it to be this celebration of fitness, but also, when you look at the coverage, like, well, who are we really celebrating? It's these elite, but not the, we talked about it last week, how like there really isn't much coverage from the 35 to 65 plus. There's not much coverage of the teens. So it's a celebration of CrossFit and what these athletes can do and of fitness, but it really only focuses on the elite of the elite. And I think that's also partly because it also knows, are those the ones that those are the ones that people are going to watch. Like that's going to get the most eyes on the product. Because I think if you put, the 50 to 54 division on TV and give it heavy coverage, how many people are really going to watch that? And so I think it knows, I think it definitely knows where its bread and butter is. I think it's trying to tell you that no, we care about all of them, but you're not really showing that in the way that you're covering it. And so so I think they're trying to, whereas like you said, like baseball, football, like they unapologetically, like, this is who we are, this is what we do. I think CrossFit right now is trying to be like, I think they are being apologetic. Like, this is no, we care about all of you, but this is like, we have this one and we're doing the best we can because we're going to put a lot of coverage on this, we're going to put a lot of emphasis on this, and so that from the game standpoint, I feel like it's that they try to tell you that it's about all of it, but what you're really like, you're not telling us that it's on ESPN. You tell us the day before it starts, it's on ESPN. You have the one camera angle for the age groups and all that, but you have all the coverage and all the announcers and everything else going for that. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I fully understand what you mean. So the idea of that they're apologizing strikes me though as something important in kind of what you were saying there. I actually feel as if there's a complete absence of apology. Actually, I feel as if like I don't feel any sort of repentance for their delivery of what they delivered this year, to the point where like I actually feel as if there's a deliberate and almost intentional, like, if you want access to this, to the broadcasters, to the third party folks, there are certain rules you're going to have to abide by, and we will not tolerate or we will not allow you access or, we'll just stick with access. If you don't, like, you don't have to only celebrate, but you cannot focus on the negative. And what I mean by that is, so like, if you go to the game's site where they wanted everyone to go through, I went through, so I tried to watch, like, when they'd say, like, the CrossFit Games app is now available, download the app and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, all right, cool. So I go through it. And so that you're going online, like you're on the internet. Oh yeah. I mean, everything they wanted you to do was via a mobile platform. And I'll tell you who, so Luis, Steph Haynes, when we were setting up the website and setting up the Fairwinds CrossFit stuff, both of them gave me a really good piece of advice of like, okay, when you set something up, go ahead and log out from your main login and come in. You'll always make like a fake user account and come in as if you were the uneducated first time user coming in to your thing from all the devices that most. And Luis made a really good point when he said, like, 90% of users are going to come on this mobile device. Yeah. So whatever you design, it better be usable from this as the primary thing. I was like, oh, that's a really good point. So I would do it and I'd be like, oh my God, this is horrible. This looks, I got to fix this. So then, like, that's when I was like, I'm not designing this anymore. And we spent the top end money to go with the, people who actually do this for a living.
Do it, yeah.
So I went in through the game's app and I tried to pull up the workouts. Wait a second. Are they called workouts, Eric? Are they called events, or are they called tests?
That's fair.
No, they're called tests. It's been told numerous times, to the point where Sean Woodland was getting yelled at, and he let in on this on one of the after action or one of the behind the scenes things. He was getting yelled at by producers, by the CrossFit like HQ, like, Sean, we need you to consistently call them tests. We're calling them tests this year. If you go into the site, if you go into the games through the games site, right? Here I am, CrossFit Games. I go down, I go to how do I get to where's this competition? All right, I'll click on competitions. Oh, there it is. I push the little button, the games. Workout 1, ride. Workout 2, pig chipper. Wait a second. Is it a workout or is it a test, Eric?
Well, it's funny because it's funny even right here on the front. So there's the workout tab, but then that says men's individual tests. Well, it's on the same page. It's inconsistent.
So okay, I got it. And you make a good point. They've got how many? They're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They're young. Blah blah blah. That has nothing to do with your fucking age. This has to do with they're not even trying. Because if they were trying, what they would do is they would say, this is what we can do. And we are going to do it better than you expect. Their creator and founder said from the very get-go, do not try to do something that you are not, right? Like, do not chase the money, chase excellence. The money will follow. They have lost their way. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what this thing, the games, is. I don't either, right? Like, I'm not saying like I have an answer of like how to fix it. I don't work for them. I'd have no desire to work for them. But in all honesty, it doesn't surprise me that the viewing experience, maybe the on-site, Andy and I were going back and forth over text on this, maybe the on-site experience and maybe being there and being overwhelmed by the spectacle of it was amazing and phenomenal and the best ever and the greatest and awesome, all adjectives used over and over and over and over again. It's the best. This is the greatest. It's so awesome. This is awesome spectacle of elite fitness. It's the greatest. These are the greatest on earth, right? Like, okay. I found it kind of abundantly boring. And maybe I'm a little grumpy, but I tried to watch it. Like I tried to just experience it for what it was. The tests or the workouts, whatever we're calling them. I basically was watching it like 3/4 speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to switch platforms. I had to go from YouTube to ESPN. And thankfully I'm already an ESPN subscriber because I pulled the plug and we are Hulu, Disney, ESPN. So like I didn't have to pay, which the price point that you would have had to pay wasn't that much, right? Like I think it was $10. If you just do a 1 month subscription, you could get it for like $9.95 or whatever. And there's 12 tests. So, across 4 days of competition, like, dude, that you spend more on, I don't know, fill in the blank. Yeah, exactly. Like not totally the right price point. Totally fine. I just don't know what is happening. And that's fine, I guess. But if I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are catering their product to. I don't know if they know that they are simply delivering a product. And I don't know if they know what their product is.
Yeah.
And all of that to sit like, maybe they do, and they just haven't figured. Maybe Don Fall knows exactly what he's doing, which is awesome. What I will tell you is I have zero desire to participate in that aspect of the CrossFit offering moving forward. So if you were to say like, oh, you're gonna fill in the blank, probably not, right? Like, and Annie was like, maybe I've been doing it for too long. Maybe it's sort of like, I remember when I could watch it on this, but as far as like I am not going to go to the CrossFit Games app to get my CrossFit stuff. And if I were trying to create a product where I get eyes on product, asses in seats, I would say it failed in that.
You think there was a year that it seemed like they were like, it felt like they were heading in the right direction, and then like you could even say like there was a year where they got it, and you're like, cool. If they didn't improve on this at all for the next several years, I'm happy with what this was. Like,
I think it was that.
What? Go ahead.
I think it was that 14, 15, 16 sort of window, maybe even like 15, 16, 17 window. But Glassman has said numerous times it's too expensive.
Yeah.
That he saw he saw the writing on the wall that would, as a spectacle, be initially more attractive. And as he said, yeah, it's easy to spend $25 million to make a millionaire, right? Like that's not hard, right? I can easily spend $25 million to make to make two people $1 million, right? Two $500,000 champions. Like, awesome. Wait a second. Like, so where are they getting the other 20? Who are they stealing the other $24 million from? And I think the affiliates, he's even, and he's not perfect either, but he's like, yeah, this is the national food industry. This is the health industry. This is what they are costing somebody way more money in order to show the illusion of success. So somewhere that cost is being hidden and aggregated across a population that is completely clueless of who's actually having to spend that money, like who's losing or who is it costing that money towards. And it's an interesting phenomenon that I'm not sure I want to participate in.
Do you think they've gotten to a point where there's like, yeah, there's no going back? Like, let's say they got to a point where they're like, they could scale it back, scale back the spectacle to be able to just deliver the product of the games too. Like, maybe you're only really able to watch it on YouTube or from the games page. Maybe it isn't this huge, because I mean, there's also so much going on at the event too, right? But now, and I don't know, maybe it also means like the athletes' purses are a little bit smaller because they're scaling back because it's the do the simple things really well, and they're not doing that. So do you think they've gotten to a point where like you've kind of hit a point of no return where now the expectation is it needs to be this big spectacle because anything less you're gonna lose.
Yeah, maybe and maybe there's unfortunately like it is a unique professionalism of sport is not a unique thing, but it is a unique entity that one of its cornerstones is the unknown and unknowable. And so like there is an element of uncertainty by the participants as well as the viewers that no, you're not supposed to know all the details until the very last second like that. And that's part of its thing. But unfortunately that comes with some excessively challenging aspects of and in that, like, then it's even more important, paramount, that they have a consistency across. Like, hey, if you're going to call them workouts, call them workouts. If you're going to call them tests, call them tests. If you're going to, right? So, like, those things matter because that, in the absence of, like, I know a baseball game is going to be 9 innings. I know a football game is going to be 4 quarters. Like in the absence of those consistencies, there has to be something else that is consistent because as humans, like we need that, or else I think we get frustrated, get angry, lose interest. Like, so I don't think they've figured out like what it is. That there's also an absence of like, I tried to explain to my uncle while we were driving what we're doing. And I know this stuff pretty well. Like I'm pretty versed in the science and methodology of it, as well as the history of the games. And so I used the same verbiage that, used to have a little clip of Roy McKernan explaining what CrossFit was. It was actually one of the best ones I've ever seen. They did like the whiteboard of like, what is CrossFit? And like, right. So it was what would come on in between events on ESPN and so I was like kind of using that, explaining it to him. And then I used a little bit of what like Sean would say. And my uncle, who is a very smart person and definitely loves sport, just basically is like, it's just, I could never do that. I'm a freak like that. Those guys are freaks. And I also found that how I was explaining to him or how I was explaining to him was falling short, and it was really, really hard. And so I like also got this appreciation of like, wow, like what they are trying to do is really, really hard. I mean, like infinitely harder, I think, than we're giving it credit for, of exactly what you're saying. Like, what is this thing that they're trying to accomplish? They're trying to find the fittest man and woman team in the world. All right, well, what is fitness? Fitness is work capacity across broad, modal, and time domains. Okay, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, okay, well, and then how do you test that? Monostructural weightlifting, gymnastics. Okay, well, what does that mean? And so there's like all these like, well, you're basically having to redefine terms. It would sort of be like explain football to an alien who comes from outer space, like, and explain how football is different than rugby or sevens, or explain how football is different than soccer.
Yeah. It's a fun challenge.
Right. Well, and like, and then explain how the games fits or nests within all of that same sort of categorical sport.
Yeah.
And is it a sport?
That's an argument you apply to, like, the sport of exercise.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a game in the sense that there are established rules.
There are points
They've
you can win or lose. You can.
exactly like
Yeah.
so. I mean, you can gamify anything. So in that sense, like, yeah, okay, it's a sport. There's an aspect to that, but then, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't have any answers. I just know I was really uninterested in the final outcome. I'm happy for Laura Horvath, right? That was kind of cool that she won it. And this Jeffrey Adler guy, I'm not sure who that is. I think he's from Canada or something. I'm just kidding. Like, I'm super happy for him. Super happy for Vellner. I don't really understand. I mean, I had to dig and find like what happened to Krennikov, what happened to Roman. Right, because he landed on one of his bags that he threw over on the.
Yeah, I ended up seeing the video. It was from like far off. He saw like he hopped over the log and basically just like rolled up his ankle.
Yeah,
he was able to keep going, but I think it was after that it blew up and he realized something was wrong.
Yeah, and none of us know what happened to Medeiros because nothing's really come out, at least that I know of.
Yeah, he just that first day was just. Well, so yeah, I heard like he did fall. Like there was like he did fall on his bike, and the question was like, was he concussed? Well, if he was concussed, you better believe they're probably not going to let that out, because if he was concussed, then there's no reason he should have been continuing with the games at all. And then there's an argument if someone's injured, because remember, what was that dude's name? Alex Caron. He was in the quarterfinals. He had something going on where he couldn't do the ring muscle ups, even though there was no minimum work requirement. They determined that because of his injury, he wasn't allowed to continue in the event.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just a test, but the whole event. And then apparently it sounds like, yeah, a couple people were injured during the games, but they were allowed to continue. So whereas, again, the rules changed.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, yeah, cool. I was like, it's funny, like looking at the leaderboards. It's like I wanted to see. I was stoked to see an American on the podium for the women again. I was like, oh, can we get first place? I feel like it's been a long time since Americans been on the women's podium, and so I was stoked for that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Roman's still finishing. I mean, he had a good lead. It was slipping though. It was starting to slip before his injury, but the fact he still finished on the podium despite that injury was cool. So, but yeah, so back to the regular grind of good old fashioned fitness.
That's right.
So outside of all that, what gratitude hit me?
I think this one's easy. It's my boys. They were pretty phenomenal for the last couple days and made that trip pretty awesome. Like, just they are impressive dudes in that they roll with whatever, but they'll also tell you when they've had enough and what they want to do. I never have a worry that they will find something to entertain themselves with, and that they will make the right choices when faced with, like, do I do X that is going to epically be an epic disaster, or do I do Y that will be fun but maybe not quite destroy my life? They invariably choose the right thing, and so they are pretty awesome to be around in that. What I think is an appropriate use of that term, because I am constantly in awe of them, and so
cool, very cool. It's funny. Like, I've gone back and forth on mine, and like I've been thinking about this week. Like, my gratitude is like, being in Detroit. I was going to ask, you were in Detroit. SummerSlam was in Detroit at Ford Field on Saturday night.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw all the emblematics on the on the whatever the stadium right there is next to it. I was going to try and take a picture. You can see who's won the Jake Paul. Is that?
Oh yeah, Jake Paul.
One of them fought
or Logan
Yeah.
Paul.
Logan's the WWE guy, right?
Yeah, he had the opening match on SummerSlam and put on a great show. And as soon as he finished, he hopped on a plane to fly to his go
Brothers
see his
fight.
brother's fight.
Yeah.
And he was still in all his gear and stuff too, which was cool because it's like the dude knows what he's doing. Like he's still
Yeah.
like stretching the brand and getting eyes on the product, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that weekend trip, we left Friday, we got back Saturday night, and as chaotic as it was, like I had this realization. Megan and I were kind of annoyed with the hotel, and it was kind of like we went to the beach, but the weather was really crappy, and we ended up not staying there that long. We were trying to watch The Little Mermaid because Friday night's movie night, so we were going to try to watch Little Mermaid, and we were having issues with the TV and stuff. And Megan and I were just kind of frustrated with the whole experience. And then we also came to the real, and it was more too like, thinking about the kids, like, was this a waste of time? Like, was it a waste of money and an effort? Because, we also wanted to kind of do this fun thing with the kids, and wasn't this kind of waste time for the kids? And then she said at one point, she remember how as a kid, just the experience of staying in a hotel, like how cool it was just to stay in a hotel room. Like it felt like this really big deal. And I remember that because the kids, they were stoked just being in a hotel room. Like that, Fee was frustrated the TV didn't work, but she understood. And that we couldn't watch The Little Mermaid. But the fact that we're in a hotel, she's floored by it, and she loved it. And so it's so like I think all things considered, like the kids just the experience of staying in a hotel, and we went on the ferry. We went on the Cape May ferry, which you saw too. That was fun. And and they, that those little experiences. Like if we get so wrapped up in like it costs this much and this didn't work and this didn't work, but like they had a blast because they're not going to remember some of the things that we carry the baggage with. So
yeah,
so okay. And she lost a tooth. It was already memorable. She lost her first tooth, so it was cool.
All wins.
Yeah, all wins. Cool. All right, brother.
Cool.
Same time next week.
Always.
Let's do it.